through the Instagram feeds of some major art outlets that I follow, like Tate, and they just had there was a young contributor to the Gay Times. I didn't even know that existed. Who made a tour um, through Tate, showing some works by gay artists, which uh, I find it remarkably not interesting. With the works, I see this more and more. I'm really not interested in who kind of how gay, how female, how old, how whatever. It's to me it is. It's more and more the works itself. They speak, but it was interesting. It was kind of a fun, and then there was Bacon in the end, who was of course gay. So it was an interesting thing that they had there, and I fell over somebody else that does, and I haven't heard about him before. That who does creates paintings that are like a series of smaller stones, which had which it's a funny thing. And then I felt over somebody by the name of Neuronenrausch, which is really kind of interesting work. Though I must say that I realized that there is sometimes happens to me. It's like there's this one work that totally captures me, like this one here from Neuronenrausch. And then when I go on the feed and go kind of look a little deeper, I sense that my interest was more to that specific work, and that was not so representative of what I thought it would be in the end as an overall kind of oeuvre of this artist, which is of course super subjective. But I found a couple of his pieces I find very interesting. But I feel like what I sense is when I look at pieces, I not only see the pieces themselves, but I'm seeing what I'm it's kind of looking into my own eyes as well. So, for example, I have absolutely no problem with digital art and with artificial intelligence, people using it, totally fine. I mean, I like Joseph Beuys making an invisible sculpture. If I like that, I cannot be against kind of any specific tool somebody would be using. But what I sense is when it comes to texture, I don't like when digital tries to imitate, or artificial intelligence for that matter, tries to imitate some analog texture. So either it's kind of artificial by nature, so you couldn't do this any other way but using a digital tool or AI or whatever. That is super fine. But if you're kind of imitating something of the real world, I feel like I don't like that so much, because it's like I feel like the real world somehow more honest in this respect, and I like honesty. So what I had with this Neuronenrausch, I felt like there was a textural element to it that I felt like was in this early some of the works that I saw, but not in the other ones. So that turned me a bit off. But to me, this process of seeing something and liking and forming my mind, for example, as I do right now with this textual stuff, that is very interesting. Because of course, with one of the beautiful things about looking at art is you change while you're looking at it, or at least when you have a certain awareness. Not rapidly all the time. That's not. I wouldn't like that. But for example, for me, it was like for many years, I was so much into the craft of painting and stuff, that I couldn't really appreciate people who would do totally different art, like conceptual art. I kind of found it interesting, but you know, you're not drawing, you're not painting, you're something like this. But that changed, and now I really appreciate the quality of work that, for example, Joseph Beuys did with some of his works. It's just, and it looks much easier than it is, and you have to learn this as well. There's a craft to conceptual art as well. And the biggest kind of change in my development looking at art was probably Rothko, because having rectangles in singular color in very few colors, I didn't get it until one day I learned that somebody was weeping in front of a rothko. And I'm like, what? How can you weep in front of a rectangle like this? But then I did some digging deeper, and I started to see what the thing was about. So it totally changed my perception, and it was actually a real learning process. And now I try to have this openness of mind. I don't want to fall for everything, because then just because it's hanging in a museum and just because it's hanging in a gallery and costs a lot of money doesn't necessarily mean it's good art. Being aware of whatever good art is, and that might change, and my own view might change. But not kind of buying everything at face value just because the art world appreciates it. But at the same time, keep a certain openness. Because one of the beautiful things to me about all of this art thing is that it's ever changing. And when you believe it is a certain way, then it goes somewhere else. And it's always been like this. Now we believe that that's a kind of a modern invention, contemporary art and stuff. But the people that we revere in history as well, in the history of art, is like they were the misfits. Very often they were kind of contemporary, obviously in their time, and very often they push the boundaries, and themselves, and that's still going on. And I don't think with AI, whatever, it will not go away. It's like we'll find a way of kind of tricking AI, making fun of it by art installations. But that was interesting today, that to see some, so kind of this I learned there's a gay times, and then these pieces where it just takes these rocks, and there's a video on I will link this, and there's a video that shows how he does that, and it's a nice process with a lot of texture, real texture. So that's, well, coming back to that, which I like. Thanks for the time.